Hello everyone and welcome to, do we want to say week 1 of Yarn Barn? She was delivered on Wednesday and we had her put up a little bit higher so that way I can go under, and if I feel like I need to insulate the bottom of the floor from underneath with some foam boards, I can. We are actually building her stairs this weekend, temporary stairs, because later on we will be putting a covered porch from about here all the way over with a deck area so I can have some chairs out there to sit and knit and crochet. She is 12 feet wide and 28 feet long. It has 8-foot interior ceilings, and I opted for 2 windows in the front as well as 2 windows in the back. And the windows are 3x3 windows. I had them upgraded opposed to the 2x3 for extra light. She does have a metal roof, and the paint is actually Sherwin-Williams iron ore with snowbound trim. See, right now it's a whole lot of empty space, and I'm sure I am echoing quite well in here. And it is huge. So I am actually walking back. My back is currently on one wall, and that is the other space. This wall, I'm actually going to be building, you can see where I have a line across the floor. I'm going to be building a wall with a curved door opening that's only going to go to the height of the actual sidewalls. And then I'm going to put a shelf on top of it to display things. But this area is going to be a closet, so to speak, which I will line with bookcases. And that way I can just have some stuff out of sight, out of mind, which will leave all this other space open for whatever. This will be a wall of Billy bookcases. Currently my bookcases are black, but I'm considering painting them, and so it's not so dark. And then I may actually build them kind of in with some old molding to make them look like they're custom built-ins and have them wrap around these walls. But the next step, besides the stairs, is going to be ventilation and insulation, because that is very critical when building a shed out like this. Because if not, you can have moisture control issues, which will lead to mold and mildew, and nobody wants that with their yarn. So we are actually killing 2 birds with 1 stone. These are steps that we built many years ago, and they've been up here for over 10 years. We have some dry rot issues. So when you're making stairs, the wood should be like an umbrella. When it goes like a cup, that's when you're going to have issues with dry rot, which is what we're having. But the pieces with the umbrella, even though there may be some cracking due to sun damage, you're not going to have the dry rot issues. So make sure their wood grain is like an umbrella and not a cup. Lesson learned for us. Don't have issues out of any of these, but these, every one of them that we did upside down, we're having issues. Again, an umbrella, no issues. Umbrella, no issues. Just something to point out. So for this, we got these for my building to build the steps on, and we got 8-foot boards. And what we're going to do is we will cut these for our front porch, and then I'll have the leftover boards for my shed for temporary steps. So this is my temporary stairs, and the reason we put the base of the stairs in the middle is because this is getting a lot of traction, and a lot of heavy equipment is going in and out as far as the circular saw and stuff to work in there. So I wanted something that's going to be really sturdy, but that is just temporary because we are already having to put, there's the little piece of a metal that my husband put up today. to keep the rain, because the rain was coming straight down and bouncing on that and going up under the door. You can see that line right there is the line of dirt that I've swept that way. So my goal is to sweep it all that way and then suck it up with my shop vac. Okay, so this is a lot of work, going around and caulking all these walls. And this is the caulk gun I'm using. It's actually the lightest one I found. Standard caulk gun, 9 to 10 ounce. But this whole thing right here really puts a lot of pressure and bruising on the palm of your hand if you're not used to it, which I am not, because I don't go around caulking a lot of houses. So I've got these gloves that I found at Lowe's on clearance, and they're mossy oak hand crew, but they have padding right here on the pad of your hand. And I don't want to get these covered in caulk because these are going to be great gloves for working outside in general. So I put on a vinyl glove to keep caulk off of them, and it is really helping pad my hand. But to get started on this, you have to cut off the tip. And I just get the knife kind of in there and go around like I'm opening a can, and then that will just pop off. The reason I'm using this caulk is because we have an abundance of it. We have a whole case that we've had for several years that my father-in-law bought. So it is FREEE, which is a very good thing. Applicator things, you just screw it on. Push this button on your caulk to release, pull all the way back, and slide it in there. And then you can pump it up to ready to go. It's adding a slant cut to your caulk. It makes this a lot easier. And I just pop a little corner off where I keep the blade at an angle and just go off. And you can see now I have a slant. So, I thought I would give a little update. Today is March the 3rd. And we have done some work in the yarn barn. Not a lot because it just takes a lot of time and it takes some money. So again, this is going to be a little bit of a slow process, but I promise to give you these updated videos when I can. So I'm going to flip the camera around so I can show you what we have gotten done thus far. I'm over halfway done with caulking around all the individual boards. And you can see the white caulk has to go around every one of these. So I've done all the way to here, which is a little bit on this main wall on the back, on one of the sides, right there. And I've done all that way until that window right there. But I still have to do all of that, which is a lot. Yes, I know. And it like seriously is a workout because this caulking gun like kills my hand. But we've also started putting in our vents. So we're having to drill holes in each roof section to put air vents. Once we get those drilled, we go in with this pink board. This is called baffle board. And the baffle board sits against that little vent area, and we staple it around, which we haven't got this one all the way stapled yet, so we're just trying to figure it out. And we have to install another piece so it goes all the way to the center. And what that is going to do is allow the air to come from outside through those grooves and out the top of the roof. You're like, why is that important? That air has to come from the outside and go through there, out that roof, to allow for ventilation. If you do not have ventilation in your ceiling, then the heat from the top of the ceiling is going to mix with the air. And if it's cold outside, you're going to develop condensation. Very important to note that for whatever reason in tiny homes, because they're smaller space, they have more humidity problems, which you may think, well, you're sealing up around the boards, it's not going to let air in, that's going to create more humidity. Yes, but it's also going to keep bugs out. All your normal houses have ventilation in your soffits, which are on the outside of the house that goes up through a vent fan on your roof. That's to keep that from having any kind of mold issues. A lot of these sheds that are built for sheds are not made to be heated or cooled. So if you're going to heat or cool them, then you've got to create the ventilation in your ceiling, or you're going to have crazy issues when you heat and cool with condensation, mold, and mildew, which is why we're doing it this way. You can see we started and we've got all the vents on one side done. So that's 28 vents. Okay. The vents that I'm using are these 2-inch vents. And these are made for this. This came from, I think it's called the Vent Masters, but it has, so it goes like this, so water can't go into the holes, but it also has a small grade screen on it to keep any kind of bugs from coming in. I mean, yeah, ants can get in that, but we're gonna also spray the exterior when we spray the exterior of our other house. So those are my little vents coming in, and they just help regulate the temperature in the attic so you do not have water issues. Now my attic is gonna be cathedral style, so it's gonna go up at a slant. We're gonna raise those crossbars up so they're not as low to get as much height as possible. It's gonna have a small flat space, which is gonna allow us to hang the ceiling fan and stuff down, and also have that little bit of attic airspace for the air to circulate and go out the top ridge vent. That hole across the top is called your ridge vent. There's a cap on it like this that keeps the rain from coming out, and there's these little things that stick under it that keep bugs from coming in but allow airflow to go out. That vent that they put right there is actually going to be covered up with drywall. They often put those on buildings for ventilation, but because I'm doing a vaulted ceiling, it does not apply to me. Now, if I was actually doing a flat ceiling where I came straight across that board to the height of the walls and just had a flat ceiling, that would have been fine for ventilation, because there's one there and there's one there. However, that's not the option that I wanted to go, because I want it to be as tall as possible just to make it bigger in here. And I want a really big crafting oasis, and that's what this is gonna be. You can see all the individual pieces of wood on the floor that I have to go back and clean. This is the thickness that we're having to cut through, which is crazy. And it's a lot of work to cut through that, even with like a little hole saw that's made to do it. It's because the way it's positioned, it just takes a lot of arm strength and a lot of back work. But it's gonna get done. When you do your installation, you have to look at your R value for your area. So what I use on my building may not be what you need to use in your building. I am using rock wool, which is a higher end product than the pink stuff because it's made with rock bits and installation. It's supposed to really help with sound barrier, as well as if a leak was to happen and water was to come in the wall, then the water would actually go through it and just come out at the bottom for me to dry up. It doesn't disintegrate when wet. The pink stuff tends to disintegrate when wet, and that's not something that I want to have to go in later and rip out drywall and have to replace. So that's why I'm choosing to use the rock wool opposed to the pink stuff. Now, for my ceiling, I have 1x6 rafters, and where I live, the R value recommendation for your ceiling is actually a R30. And your R value is basically your thickness. So by the time I have my baffle on my ceiling and do my R30, I'm not gonna have enough room. I'm actually gonna be short 2 inches. So to correct this, we're having to go in and put a 1x2 board and extend these 1x6 cross boards 2 inches so I can get that correct R value in the roof. It's a lot more expensive to do that way because you're having to add on more wood cost, and it's also a more expensive installation for the roof. than the R15 that I'm doing in the walls, which is what's recommended from my area. But it's going to help with my heating and cooling costs. So even though the cost up front is more, my year-long and every year after cost is going to be a lot lower, because I'm going to be able to insulate more and keep it cooled and heated at a much lower cost than if I had went with an R15 in the roof. So that is what is going on in the she shed as of right now. Hopefully we'll be able to get those vents completed and maybe start the baffle sometime in the next couple of weeks. I would really like to be able to start hanging drywall in April, but it's pollen season here and you can already see how swollen my eyes are. So adding the sawdust and the sheetrock dust is going to be brutal for me. So I'm not really sure how that's going to play out. So we'll have to see. Even standing out here recording right now, I'm already getting pollen on my phone. It's just crazy pants. But I really hope you enjoy this series. I really appreciate you checking out my videos. And if you have any questions, please post them down below and I can answer them. Until then, you can check out what's going on here.